So, let's talk about something that's becoming a real challenge for a lot of us in academia: high AI and similarity scores. You see a report, it flags potential misconduct, so what's the right move? In this explainer, we're going to break down a fair, effective process that really protects our academic integrity, but also crucially respects student rights. You know, this quote from a colleague at Regent College London, it really hits home, doesn't it? It's a situation so many of us are finding ourselves in. The numbers are, frankly, alarming, and it creates this pressure to act. But the key is we have to act in the right way. That's why having a clear, consistent procedure isn't just nice to have, it's absolutely essential. Right, so here's our game plan. We'll start with those alarm bells, the AI scores. Then we'll get into the vital difference between an indicator and actual proof. We'll walk through the first steps, how to conduct a fair meeting, what to do with what you find, and finally, wrap up with how this all helps us uphold academic integrity. Okay, first up, the AI score alarm. As that quote we just saw highlighted, seeing a high percentage on a report, it can be a bit jarring, can't it? The immediate challenge is to respond thoughtfully, not just reactively. Our commitment has to be to a fair and transparent process, not some knee-jerk judgment based on the number. And look, this is exactly why getting this right is so important. We're not just playing detective here. We're protecting the actual value of our qualifications. Because let's face it, a degree is only as strong as its integrity. It's about making sure every student gets a fair shake. And having a consistent approach means we can focus our precious time on the cases that truly need a closer look, helping to build a culture of trust and honesty. Right, this next point is probably the single most important thing to take away from our chat today. Automated scores are indicators, they are not proof. Getting your head around this distinction is the absolute foundation of any fair, evidence-based investigation. So, have a look at this. It lays it out perfectly. On one side, you've got your indicators, the things that make you go, that's your high AI score, your similarity report. They're just a cue to start looking. But the proof, well, that's on the other side. That comes from digging a bit deeper. Does the student have drafts or a version history? What about submission timestamps? How do they respond in Aviva? That's the real supporting evidence we need. And this leads to a really crucial point about how we communicate with students. Never, ever hide the report or just dismiss the tool as faulty. The best approach is to be completely open. Show them the report, explain what it's flagging, but also explain the tool's limitations. This gives them a chance to respond to what's actually in front of them, and it keeps the whole process trustworthy. Alright, so we've got the principles down, but what do you actually do when one of these reports gets flagged? Let's get into the practical side of things. This is your step-by-step guide for what comes next. Now, the key here is consistency. For every single flagged submission, the process is the same. First, you review the reports. For any student you need to speak to, you apply a provisional Mark 1. Then, you send a private Teams invite, making sure to give them at least 3 days' notice. And this is vital. You attach the report and any other evidence to that invite so they know exactly what you want to discuss. No surprises. And let's just pause on this Mark 1 for a second, because this is absolutely crucial. It has to be recorded explicitly as Mark 1, provisional, under review. This is not a penalty, it's not a judgment. It is simply an administrative placeholder that tells everyone this piece of work is being looked at. That's it. Okay, you've done the prep work. Now it's time for the meeting itself. And the whole mindset here needs to be right. This is not an interrogation. This is a neutral, fact-finding conversation. The goal is to understand, not to accuse. But before you dive in, there's a big question we need to sort out, and it's all about data protection and student rights. What do you do about recording the meeting? And the answer is actually quite simple. It all boils down to one thing: explicit consent. If the student gives you the okay, either in writing or verbally once you start, then great. Record the Teams meeting and store it securely. But if they refuse, you absolutely do not record. Instead, you take incredibly detailed notes as you go. And it's always a good idea to note their refusal and maybe even have a second staff member there as a witness. So what should you be asking? Well, these questions here are a fantastic guide. And notice the tone, right? They're open-ended. They're not accusatory. You're not asking, did you cheat? You're asking, talk me through how you produced this. You're giving them the space to explain their process and to show you their work. It's all about gathering facts. Right, the meeting's done, you've got your notes, maybe a recording. So what's next? This is the stage where you carefully evaluate everything you've gathered and figure out the right way forward. And here's another super important reminder about your role in all of this. You are an investigator, not a judge and jury. Your job is to gather the facts, look at the evidence, and then make a recommendation. The final decision on any penalty, that comes later in the formal process. So when you're thinking about that recommendation, this table is your best friend. It helps you figure out, is this a minor issue or is it something more serious? You can weigh it against these clear criteria. How much of the work was affected? Does it seem like there was an intent to deceive? Have they been in this situation before? And what level are they studying at? It helps make sure your recommendation is fair and based on the evidence. And just to give you some context on why this process is so important, have a look at the range of potential outcomes. It can go from a simple referral all the way to failing the program. This really shows how seriously academic misconduct is taken. But again, let me be clear. These penalties are for a formal panel to decide, not for you during this initial meeting. All right, let's pull all of this together then. Following these steps consistently doesn't just help you sort out individual cases, it actively strengthens the academic integrity of our entire institution. It's all about having a process that is both fair and robust. So, if you remember nothing else, remember these 5 things. Think of it as your final checklist. 1. Be consistent. Every student, same process. 2. Be transparent. Share the evidence. 3. Be preventative. Encourage students to submit drafts. 4. Be compliant with data protection. And 5. Be thorough. If it needs to go further, use the official forms. Nailing these 5 things makes the whole process fair, effective, and defensible. And I'll leave you with one last question to think about. While this is, of course, a disciplinary process, there's also an opportunity here. How can we use these moments, these conversations, not just to punish, but as a genuine teaching moment to really reinforce what academic integrity is all about? Definitely something worth considering.